World War II was an event taking place in Europe when Germany invaded Poland. The war lasted for exactly 6 years and 1 day, beginning on September 1st, 1939, and ending September 2nd, 1945. After 6 years and a day, the war finally ended due to the surrender of Germany in May 1945. Within 2 years after starting the war in Europe with his invasion of Poland in 1939, Adolf Hitler had subjugated much of the continent, including France, in an extremely fast conquest. After Adolf took action, he soon sealed his fate with an invasion of the Soviet Union that was poorly thought out. Joseph Stalin and the Soviet people did not concede, even though they had to overcome many initial defeats. Soon the Nazi forces were defeated at Stalingrad, and the Soviets began to slowly force them back to Europe. Although it took a long time, on top of millions of deaths, the Soviets eventually pushed Hitler's forces all the way back to Germany. In the year of 1944, a new front was reopened in the West when Britain, France, the US, Canada, and other allies landed in Normandy. Two big military forces come from the East and West, eventually grounding the Nazis down.
World War II had a decided effect on the impact of the economy and worker force of the United States. The United States was still recovering from the impact of the Great Depression, and the enrollment rates were hovering around 25%. Our involvement in the war soon changed that rate. Why did the United States enter World War II? Although the war began with Germany attacking Poland in September 1939, the United States did not enter the war until after Japan bombed the American fleet. The negative effects on the U.S. The negative effects on the U.S. The economy was caused by World War II. Both women and children joined the working force during the war. The United States engaged in World War II from 1941 till 1945. All allies and allied nations were affected by the war in both positive and negative ways.
After 300 days, the Great War's longest battle, 300,000 soldiers, both French and German, had sacrificed their lives in the trenches around Verdun. When the guns fell silent, the front line was back where it started. The Verdun Memorial Museum is still teaching the futility of war to each new generation. The displays are graphic and sobering. But as world leaders gather in Paris to mark the 100th anniversary of the Great War's end, has anything really changed?
We have today an economic and political environment that is not very different from a century ago. That's why our mission is so important. We must convey this memory to the young generation.
This group of German schoolchildren visiting the memorial are exposed every day to equally horrific images of conflict broadcast on television.
Okay, today we're here with Mr. West.
So
We're going to be asking what caused the end of World War II?
the plan for the majority of the war had been for the United States to perform a land invasion in Japan, because, you know, it's kind of what we typically do. We invade, we blow up, we go on about our day. Yet we had this idea for this nuclear bomb building in the background, atomic bomb building in the background, as a thing that could be used to try to say, hey, we have this power. If you don't back off, we will use more of it. We only had the two. We made three, one for testing, and of course the two for, you know, dropping on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But we did not let on. We tried to make it look like we have this whole arsenal of atomic weapons. So either you back down now, or we're going to wipe you off the face of the earth. Once those atomic weapons were ready, Harry Truman and his advisors kind of reached the conclusion that a land invasion of Japan would result in the deaths of probably millions of Japanese. This is a culture that is based on never surrendering, never giving up. The whole samurai bushido way of, if you surrender, it's the worst thing you can do for your family. So they reached the conclusion that had we invaded Japan itself, we might have had to kill everyone. Harry Truman viewed dropping the atomic bomb as the least destructive way to end World War II, of saying, look at the power we have, now please, for the love of every god, surrender now so we don't have to use it anymore. And in a sense, that worked.
Thank you.